All right, here we go. We got half an hour to talk about all things that have happened this week in sports. It doesn't feel like enough time. We could do it for 3 hours, especially when we're talking about the Falcons. Let's start with Gabe Burns from the AJC. Great to have you in studio. You have a brand new coach at Florida. Lots happening in your world.
A lot is happening. Again, we'll talk a little bit about Summerall, but if he wins, he's going to win a lot of people over.
I think a lot of people will be excited in Gainesville for sure. And then Jarvis Davis from Locked On Georgia Tech over there on the far side. Sir, you've got a lot of opinions yourself and about the Falcons too.
Absolutely. Raheem Morris is throwing his special teams coordinator under the bus. And so we'll see if he still has a job on Monday.
Okay, we're going to talk a lot about that. Let's talk about the fact that it does feel like rock bottom for the Falcons. I can't believe I'm saying that because each week we're inching closer to that. But when you lose to a now 3-win Jets team, it looks kind of bad, especially on a last-second field goal is the way that you lost it in regulation. Gabe, what's your instant reaction from this loss?
I think it was another pathetic loss. I add this one to the Panthers game, add this one to the Dolphins game.
Yeah.
It's inexcusable. This is who you are. You lose to the Jets. You lose to the Dolphins. You lose to these teams. This is where you are. There's going to have to be changes. There's going to have to be personnel changes. We're going to talk a little about coaching changes.
Yeah.
But this is unacceptable, and this team is just, it's just not very good.
I think one thing that is probably the most frustrating for fans is that hasn't outright been said a whole lot. And when you're losing to this caliber, what you want to hear from leadership is, this is not our expectation. Yes, you want to win football games, but how does that change? At this point in the year, when you've only won just a couple of games, we're not talking about a team that's even in the hunt of the playoff conversation. It's not great. And they're finding new ways to lose, Jarvis. How do they keep doing that?
They just have no connectivity between special teams, offense, and defense. And I feel like Raheem Morris is responsible to be that connective tissue to be able to bring all those things together. So I think that they failed that. The special teams failed them today. When you think about what they weren't able to do in critical moments, we talking about from a kickoff coverage standpoint, Raheem Morris even talked about in his post-game presser about how they kicked it into the end zone and gave the Jets the 35-yard line because their coverage team has just been off. So it's just so many things that have been consistently inconsistent throughout this season, and I really feel like Raheem Morris just doesn't have an answer.
Yeah, it's too little too late, and it does seem like he's consistently saying we're finding ways to win, yet that's not happening. I'll give you a direct quote in that post-game press conference that Jarvis is talking about. Raheem was asked what his approach is going to be to the remainder of the games, and he said, quote, to win them. What games do you think they will win on the remainder of their schedule, Gabe?
I guess they could beat the Saints again, right?
Maybe.
Maybe. I'll tell you this, other than the Saints, I'm not sure they're going to be favored in any of them, right?
Yeah, Seahawks, Bucks, Cardinals, Rams, Saints in that order.
Okay, well, you maybe could beat Arizona. Hangs in there, though. They're one of those bad teams that hangs around.
They've lost to them before.
Yeah, this is where we're at. They're not.
Yeah.
I'd assume they'd be favored over New Orleans, but this is the type of team they are. This is where we're at, and there just needs to be yet again, here we are, like every few years, they just need to reassess the organization from the top down. And how can you not make significant changes after this? And I'm not necessarily calling for a head coach firing, or there just has to be significant changes after this.
So let's go there, because that's the big conversation is how do you fix this? Because they thought they fixed it when they draft Michael Penix Jr. to be Kirk Cousins' successor. We know how the quarterback situation blew up. Kirk obviously now playing because Michael Penix Jr. is hurt. You feel like you have answers through the draft on the defensive side of the ball finally. They've been fine, but they're not saving your football team. What do you do, Jarvis? Is it a top-down assessment? Is it getting rid of Raheem? What's the answer?
I think there's a top-down assessment for sure. And I feel like for me, there has to be someone in charge of the football ops to make these hiring and firing decisions at this moment, because I don't think Arthur Blank is in the space to be able to do that at this moment. So for me, they need to hire a football ops guy to assess Terry Fontenot, to assess Raheem Morris, and because you don't have a first-round pick in 2026, so if you're not sold on Michael Penix Jr., you either just eat it. So do you bring in a new coach to eat it, or do you let Raheem Morris try to figure it out for one more year, and then in 2027, then you could tear it down? So I feel like they have to hire a football ops person that Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot report to so they can get this thing figured out.
And let's all keep in mind that the Falcons, as of right now, do not have a first-round draft pick next year, and they are sitting on a large amount of money that they have paid Kirk Cousins. So there are a lot of things to figure out, even beyond the head coaching spectrum here, and they do need to figure out what's going on special teams, because because we talked about it for weeks on end now. Something's wrong on that side of the ball, okay? Something needs to happen on special teams. Gabe, what do you do in that scenario? Because today it was a whole lot of things. You have a muff punt, a 50-yard field goal miss, 83-yard kick return. Shall I continue? Disaster week over week.
Where's the accountability for this? I mean, this is a constant problem. There's a lot of constant problems for this team it's easy to sit up there and say it needs to be corrected. We can sit here right now and say it, right?
Yeah.
But we don't have the power to fix it. Again, I'm not going to come on here and call for people to be fired necessarily, but this thing needs to be looked at from the top down, and there needs to be significant changes. I don't know if that's going to be this week or if it's going to be after the season, but this is ridiculous. And we're talking about firing Raheem. Again, it reeks of a dysfunctional organization, which it is.
Yeah.
And that's its perception, and you just have to get that figured out.
Yeah, and until they win football games on a consistent basis and break a playoff drought, we're going to have the same conversations of nothing is working. So yes, we're not calling for coaching firings. However, there does need to be a massive assessment top down, I think, with this organization.